Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
On this episode, we'll be talking about Antrum, the deadliest film ever made. It's the movie so cursed that it'll hurt you just to watch it.
Ooh, I need special glasses maybe.
Yeah,
protect my eyes.
How do you do that? Like a movie that will damage you, just if you check it out. So that was in, like, all the paranormal blogs this week had something about this Antrum film. And so immediately I'm like, okay, we're going to have to check this out. Mysterious Universe even had an article about it, April 10th, 2019. And, it just starts out like most of us have heard of cursed objects that can harm and even kill people who come into contact with them. But a cursed movie that could potentially kill anyone who watches it is definitely a new topic for discussion. All right. So that, even comes out, it talks about this film called Antrum, the deadliest film ever made. It's even in the
marketing
title,
materials,
the title of it.
Which really, you got to wonder about that marketing person.
He's like, hey guys, it's the deadliest film ever made.
You don't want to watch it. You might die.
Because I'm trying to figure out what an antrum is. Right? I don't know. I wasn't a biology major. And the biology courses I took, I was horrible in. Like really, like zoology 101, where I had to add like special tutoring and stuff.
Is it like a tantrum?
Oh,
maybe.
Yes. No, not at all.
No.
I mean, I'm just thinking, but that'd be a good guess.
Is it like some rum made with ants?
Hey, I like that. I like that too. I would drink that too. Remember the scorpion shot that came out?
That's right.
Years ago? So people would take this thing called a scorpion shot, everybody. And what it was a dead scorpion inside a flavored
vodka of some sort.
Yeah, and so you pour it into your shooter,
gross.
And then you drink it, and then you eat the scorpion. And I'm a vegetarian, but I still did it.
And now they make those cricket snacks.
Yeah. Oh, they make cricket protein bars.
But yeah, you did eat the scorp. I was there.
I'm okay with it.
It didn't sting you.
There are 6 million insects for every one person on the planet. So unless we eat them, we're going to be in trouble, guys.
For you now, there's only 5,999,999.
I only have that many to go.
Better get chewing.
Yeah, the scorpion shot. Not as gross as you think. Kind of crunchy. Just crunchy.
It's kind of surprising that it's still crunchy after being, bathed in vodka for that long.
Well, I mean, right. But a scorpion does have like a chitinous exoskeleton.
True. Ew.
So you're biting right into it. So the scorpion shot is the deadliest shot ever made, man. Anyway,
you survived it.
It's ridiculous. But I take a lot of shots, and so I figured, why not have some fun with it? How did we get to talking about scorpion shots?
Well, we were talking about antrum.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to owe an antrum.
Okay.
Or would it be row an antrum? I'm not going to throw an antrum.
There
about the fact that we got a bit off topic.
Yes, rothe an antrum te. All right. So in biology, an antrum is a general term for a cavity or chamber. We have different antrums inside of our body. Probably like the heart has an antrum, the stomach has an antrum.
Don't forget about your sinuses. Those cavities can be painful.
You guys are listening to my sinus antrums right now. So that's what antrum means. So what is the movie actually about is the next thing. Well, it's a documentary about a movie that supposedly from the 1970s, but it was lost for several years before being rediscovered. And the movie that was made in the 1970s is supposed to be able to kill anyone who watches it.
I mean, sounds like a great business model.
Right. Well, no, it's like the tobacco company business model.
Right, there you go.
That actually, funny enough, you said that. So when Judas Priest was on the stand in the 1980s when they were being taken to court for the whole, it said on their album Stained Class that these backward messages were telling kids to commit suicide, and they were being sued for it. Judas Priest actually went to court, And the thing is that it just it said like do it. It was like subliminal messages that said like do it. And Rob Halford was like, why would we want our fans to kill themselves and not buy more albums?
Yeah.
He's like, why wouldn't we just say buy more albums?
Right.
Would be the thing.
Yeah, that would be a lot more effective.
Yeah. So the whole idea of like, okay, you don't want people. The thing is, movies make a lot of money through repeat
Right.
business. That's how those Marvel movies make so much money because kids go to see it 1,000 times.
Or they buy the DVD.
Right. When they're dead, you can't see it again.
Oh, that's a fact.
So
yeah.
one thing. Hey, Antrum people, this is a little bit of free marketing advice from Mike and Wendy at See You on the Other Side podcast. Don't kill your audience so they can come back and do more.
Or don't discourage people from seeing your movie because
Right.
danger might result.
They're not gonna see your movie. They're not gonna buy toys for the movie. They're not
Right.
gonna buy the Antrum merchandise because they're gonna be dead.
Right.
All right. So the movie Antrum is about a brother and sister who ventured into the woods to dig their way to hell so they could save the soul of their recently deceased dog.
Oh, why did it go to hell? It was a bad dog.
Because this was before All Dogs Go to Heaven came out. Probably in the 70s, so then we didn't come out to the 80s. Anyway. And so it makes me think about Pet Sematary, which I haven't seen the new Pet Sematary.
I haven't yet either,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's on the list.
Right. I'm looking forward to seeing it. So they want to dig their way to hell to save the soul of their dog. And then the movie's also going to have various reports and people talking about what happened to the people who watched the film. So here's some quotes. This is in Forbes magazine, which, I mean, Forbes is a fairly respected magazine where they have these quotes.
Yeah.
And the producer, Eric 13.
That's his last name.
Yeah, but
Perfect.
that's his director or producer name or whatever.
Pen name.
I mean, Eric 13 is a guy who used to be like a Silicon Valley, used to be into software, and now he's into like horror movies and stuff like
He's
that.
investing his money in other ventures.
And so I doubt when he was working at some startup or whatever, he was like, he showed up dressed like a goth kid and said, "Call me 13." So writer, director, producer, he's also, of course, he's a multi-hyphenate. Eric 13, he said he found it last October while attending the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. Maybe I should talk. I haven't heard him talk yet because I haven't seen a video of him talk, so maybe we'll try. Here I was at the fest where this movie's playing. Normally, everyone's hyping their projects. It's very easy to talk to people about what's showing, and yet I can't get anybody to tell me what the hell actually happened in this movie everyone's talking about. That's when I had to see it. That's when it was like, okay, this is my mission now. I have to track this movie down, which is not playing anywhere else, which has no records online, which you can't find anything about. Call me 13.
Wow, that's a pretty good little California goth
Working on
accent you got going on there.
So he continues to talk about, what happened, because the movie was lost, and then they find the negative of the film or whatever, and weird symbols and ghostly images of quote-unquote unspeakable things were seen, like they were on the negative.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
so
kind of cool.
This is what happens, while the film is lost in the 1970s.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? The funny thing is, I'm actually reading this. Some of these quotes from Mysterious Universe because I closed the tab from Forbes, and they're missing an entire thing of context here in his next quote.
Uh-oh.
So the mysterious.
Will you provide that context for us, Mike?
Yes, the
Thank you.
Mysterious Universe article is written by Jocelyn LeBlanc, and she usually writes some pretty good articles, except she fails to do any kind of critical analysis of this film whatsoever.
Oh, really?
And that's weird on Mysterious Universe.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Ben and Aaron, the guys who host Mysterious Universe, they would read their own article and be like,
Pepper in some
this is
opinions.
in their Australian accents. They'd be like, this is a little crap, And then, it was from your site, guys. I love Mysterious Universe, which is why I'm taking offense to this article.
Wow.
But the thing is, he specifically compares it to H.P. Lovecraft and the Necronomicon. All right? So he says, like the Necronomicon, it was discovered after being lost for a long time. The Necronomicon, originally it was in Arabic, and then it gets lost for years and it's recovered. It's got all those notes where somebody tried to translate it, but maybe it was an ill-fated attempt because they died in the process. There's notes scrawled in the margins, and every time the book is lost and recovered, there's new patchwork pieces added to it. Okay.
It's been lost multiple times.
Yeah, right. But the thing is about the Forbes article, too, is it doesn't mention that there is no Necronomicon.
Right.
Like H.P. Lovecraft created this really cool mystical book, this idea of a really cool mystical book that if you read it, it could drive you mad and all of these kind of things. And then his fans in like the 60s and 70s, like they were like, we're going to put together a Necronomicon. We're going to make one.
Make it so.
Out of the Cthulhu mythos. And we're going to create it. All right.
Sweet.
But the thing is, like nowhere in the Necronomicon book, which you could buy at Walden Books when we were kids.
Yeah.
Like I remember reading halfway through it in Walden Books when we were kids. And when you can buy an evil grimoire at your local mall, you know this world's going to hell. Right? If the Necronomicon is really dangerous, you figure like the book purchaser of Walden Books would be like, you know what? We're not going to have this here.
Well,
like, this is dangerous.
And the other thing is like, if they're mass producing it, just think of all the things that are going to appear in all of those margins when people keep losing them.
Well, you know, that makes me think about, too, a movie we're going to get to in a little bit called In the Mouth of Madness, and we'll talk about. The entire beginning of the movie is a printing press. And it's also a very, like the music to it, John Carpenter directed In the Mouth of Madness in 1995, and he composes all the music.
Nice.
But the funny part is that when you watch that film, first of all, watch that film because it's probably the last good movie. Vampires was okay, but James Woods really saved that. But In the Mouth of Madness is the last good movie that John Carpenter really did. And I know I'm taking out Escape from L.A. here, but even though it's got his apologists, Escape from L.A. is a shadow of the original film. So the thing is, in the beginning, the music starts up and it's like heavy metal, and it sounds like someone listened to Enter Sandman and then wrote a song to sound just like Enter Sandman and put it in the beginning of the movie. So
to save money on royalties.
Yeah, right. And so we understand that because Wendy and I work in the music industry where we see these people who look for like not necessarily sound-alikes.
Yeah. We've even made a few of our own that we tried to submit for those.
That's right. We somebody was putting it that had a really big budget for this particular like it was some commercial, and they were editing it. This is like a European dating site.
Yeah.
And they put together the commercial, and they had edited the commercial together to "What About Love" by Heart, right? And so we took it and we're like, we can do a song like "What About Love," and then we put it together. And that actually ended up being the song for the Halloween episode of our podcast 3 years ago. And because for Halloween that year we went as Heart, right?
Nice.
So that's the beginning. In the Mouth of Madness has that song that sounds exactly like Enter Sandman, and that's the worst thing about the film. Everything else is actually really good. Anyway. So, but when you were saying that the printing press and those mass productions of books, like, do then the other books that go on that printing press get cursed afterward?
Right, exactly. Is the ink cursed, or is it the?
But I was just so surprised that number one, Mysterious Universe didn't take this as a hint that there may be something maybe not real afoot here.
They took the bait.
And Forbes completely takes the bait.
Yeah.
Just prints this. It's like a press release they take. Prints this.
That marketing person is just drinking the champagne right now.
Yeah, he's like, look, what a great job I did.
It worked.
The Necronomicon's not real, kids. Now, chaos magicians might say that you could use you could use a book like the Necronomicon and actually do real magic with it.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter if it's actually real. It matters if your intention and belief is
behind it.
Yeah.
And also, one could argue the sort of tulpa argument of with so many people believing in something, is it going to manifest and create some kind of curse or whatever, just from people believing in it.
And I'm with you there. But I feel like these sites should have done a little bit of research.
Totally, yeah.
So anyway, Eric 13 continues talking about his film. there's a certain level that says, okay, a haunted movie. Oh no, will I get cursed? and there's another level that says, of course you won't be cursed by a movie. Don't be ridiculous. And then there is yet another level where you're still thinking about the film days afterwards. You want to show it to your friend. And when you show it to your friend, do you tell them it's a cursed movie? Do you sort of make a cheeky joke about it? It's in your life now. You're talking about it. You're making decisions about it. The way the movie follows you in the real world. That's the real curse.
So basically like any entertainment kind of thing.
But first of all, these quotes are great.
They're hilarious.
Right? The way the movie follows you in the real world. That's the real curse.
Can't stop thinking about it.
I guess I can't stop thinking about Antrum ever since I saw the press release come out this week.
Yeah.
And then people just picking up the press release.
Crazy. And now we're talking about it. So we're in it. We took the bait.
And the reason that we feel like we need to talk to you guys about it is because it seems like nobody else is just letting people know that this is BS. That this is just viral marketing. And the thing is...
Wait, so are you saying that we won't die if we see it?
Well, now I don't want to see
dangerous.
it. No, I'm going to go see this. I'm going to see this movie when it comes out, obviously.
I want to see... How long would it take to dig a hole to hell?
Oh, especially with kids.
Right? They're not that strong.
Yeah.
And they're like short attention spans. It would take a lot, like very focused attention.
Right. Yeah, I think the other tip off that it's cursed when you look, in fact, it's not cursed. Wait, the other tip off that it's not real is when you go to the IMDb. And then you see it's got screenplay by and story by credits in there. Now, the Writers Guild of America is not going to let you put screenplay by or story by on a documentary.
Right.
You know, it'll let you, it puts, filmmaking credits and things like that, but a documentary won't let you put story by a fictional, so that's just, the funniest thing. Now, I should say that Dread Central News did put in there, full disclosure, Antrum is a mockumentary.
Okay, so they get a gold star.
Yes. So Dread Central does, Bloody Disgusting doesn't, Mysterious Universe doesn't, Unexplained Mysteries doesn't.
Wow.
And I'll give it up for Tobias and Emily at the Singular Fortean in Madison here. They put up a blog post I saw yesterday saying like, hey, this is viral marketing. Just
don't fall for it.
Don't fall for it. And
that's good. Keep everybody aware.
Right. I thought that was a good thing because it really, when I see this on paranormal blogs and nobody like checks it and says like, it's a cool story. It can be a fun thing.
Sure.
But don't just print the press release.
Right.
And like Forbes, he adds the word supposedly in one place. And that's what gets by in journalism.
Wow.
Like this is actual fake news masquerading. It's marketing masquerading as fake news. And anyway, this is, we thought we should talk about it because, first of all, the movie does look like fun.
I have to say I'm intrigued. Just the kids digging the whole thing.
Right. And then this idea that movies can hurt you if you watch it. If you see some piece of entertainment, it can curse you.
Well, and if it's true, what, Mr. 13 says about it getting into your mind and making you, affecting you after you've seen it, which it's a little unfair to have the person who created the movie spreading that kind of hype. But
well, he didn't create the movie. He just discovered it.
Oh, that's right. But, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Is it something that would cause you to think or make you wonder or delve into the big questions after you've seen it?
I mean, he also talks in the Forbes interview how people, he creates a fake sense of like popularity for it too. He's like, we haven't even been submitting it to film festivals. Film festivals are strangely coming to us and want it shown. They want this lost movie seen because it's such a big deal. And
there's a force out there that wants people to die.
Right, that wants people to watch the deadliest film ever made. I think this is a lot of fun. Viral marketing can be fun. I'm not blaming Eric 13 for any of it.
No,
or the directors.
I actually have to say, hats off,
in
a sense, because that's a really effective marketing campaign if you've got like major news sources reporting it.
Right, like sources at least I read every day. I mean, I don't read Forbes every day, but I have like keyword searches or whatever that go off when things happen, when curses happen.
Yeah, and Forbes isn't, that's outside of our paranormal circles.
Correct.
People in the general public read that, so it's the fact that it got picked up on there and it was reported on there, I have to tip my hat.
Right.
To that marketing person.
Well done. Well, this all goes back to, at least in the modern age of marketing for movies, the Blair Witch Project.
Right? Yes, indeed. That was great.
We are coming up on the 20th anniversary of the Blair Witch Project. And it really, when I first heard about the Blair Witch Project, it was on a website called Ain't It Cool News?
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't go to Ain't It Cool News anymore because it turns out that Harry Knowles was like the guy that ran it. He got Me Too'd out of the job and stuff like that. But he was, Entertainment Weekly even had him as like one of the most powerful people in entertainment for a few years because that was the first website that would like break like stories. So that people would email who'd be working on a film and either they would tip in and be like, this movie's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Like I'm the dolly grip or some somebody or a PA, somebody who's just on set, hangs out, fetching water for people, and then he like writes in, this movie's amazing, you should see the performances and the special effects, you're gonna be blown away. And then it would get people really excited, so especially for genre films, science fiction, horror, thrillers, things like that. And so you'd have these on the scene reports and things, and Ain't It Cool News was like a must read if you love movies. And so, like, right before the Blair Witch Project came out, they had this entire article about, like, how people were finding, people found this videotape, like, lost in the Maryland woods near Burkittsville, Maryland. And there was a website devoted to the legend of the Blair Witch.
That's cool.
And it was designed, it wasn't designed high-end design.
Yeah, like a 90s, a classic, right. We all had our own.
It was like a GeoCities site, kind of. So GeoCities, everybody, if you're not old enough, was like one of the first websites you can go to, and you could build your own website and put it there. And this is when it was still expensive to get a .com.
Right.
So your website would be like, I think our original band website was on GeoCities.
Yes, it was.
And you could, your website could live in different neighborhoods.
It's such a funny concept now.
Right. So like our website was like geocities.com/Sunset Strip
/club /1435.
Yes. And that was our original website.
It was an actual address.
Yeah.
Web address.
But this is a couple of years, 3 years before we got .com.
Yep.
And so you would just design that. You put up a little bit of HTML of your own.
Yeah.
And or you would use I remember when what you see is what you get editor, a WYSIWYG.
Yeah, they didn't really have much in the way of that back then, though. You really had to kind of dive in and learn how to do the HTML yourself.
Yeah. And anyway, and so the Blair Witch site, because the thing is, people would just put up sites of things that they were passionate about.
Right.
And there would be sites based on urban legends, sites based on ghost stories, things like that. And so when somebody created a site about this Blair Witch legend out of Burkittsville, Maryland, then you'd be like, oh, like I never heard about that legend, but that's really interesting. Is there something in those woods? I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And, I was all over the internet, so I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool story. And then you're like, well, I got to see this movie now because you want to see what happened to these 3 kids who were making a documentary about the Blair Witch and then disappeared in the woods. And, all the marketing is showing, there really hadn't been at the time like a found footage movie like that.
Yeah, not in the mainstream.
Especially one obviously shot on video, because the thing is when you blow up video to film resolution like you kind of watch in a movie theater, it's going to look like crap.
Yeah, garbage.
So they had mockumentaries before. They had fake documentaries made all the time, but none of it was looked like this. Like this looked low tech.
Yes, and it was so the camera was so shaky.
Right.
People would get sick in the theater from all the bumping around.
And that's because it was shot by the actors themselves. And the marketing was so effective on this that Blair Witch, it only cost $60,000 to make or something like that, which I don't even know where that money went.
Right.
But it spent millions of dollars in the marketing of it. Even at the Cannes Film Festival, they put up missing signs with the kids' pictures.
That's cool.
And then I think they had to take them down soon after because somebody actually was abducted from the Cannes Film Festival.
What?
Yeah, in 1999.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's pretty weird.
Creepy.
but so this marketing happened, and then I'd say maybe a month after, like the first reports of it online, like somebody's like, "Oh no, this isn't a real movie. I mean, this isn't a real legend. This is all made up for a movie."
Wow.
But then you're like, okay, well, at least that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that they did a really clever job of marketing. So
it was creative because it was so different from any other movie marketing.
Well, the actors used their real names too.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah, that's...
Heather Donahue, who plays Heather, I mean, she even...
plays Heather Donahue.
Yes. She even says... I mean, the thing is, I hope that was her acting, because if that's her in real life, she's a really unpleasant girl.
Nice. Josh!
But okay,
the map.
Her mother got like sympathy cards because people thought that she actually died.
That's really sad. That would be horrible.
Yeah. And so, man. If you guys haven't seen the movie, the whole idea of it is that in 1994, three students go out who are making a documentary on this urban legend about this weird witch that does evil things and lives out in the middle of the forest in Maryland.
Right. You don't know that much about it, so you learn through their exploration,
right,
that they're documenting.
And they disappeared, and then the videotape, from their camera just shows up a few years later, and that's what you're going to watch. Now, first of all, the idea that, let's just go into the legalities of it. You have missing persons case, 3 people in a missing persons case.
Right.
They find the video that shows what happened to them.
Yeah.
And it's like...
and then they're going to make money off of it by making it into a movie, in the theater.
And they give it to some producers to, turn it in, where they have like posters and things like that. I feel like the families would immediately have sued.
Right. Well, also, I guess I didn't think about it at the time, but I mean, it seems like had 3 people disappeared doing that, it would have been, something we would have heard about on Unsolved Mysteries or something, because it's such a weird, spooky way to disappear.
And, we were in college at the time, and so we would have heard, they would have talked about that in our film department.
Right.
They'd have been like, you guys need to be careful when you're out shooting stuff because you don't know what happened in Maryland.
It's a cautionary tale.
3 kids disappeared when they were shooting their documentary, and we don't know what happened to them.
Those meddling children.
Yeah, so don't do anything stupid. And I mean, I would do stupid stuff for film projects all the time.
Oh, yeah. No, I was like part of some of them.
Yeah. There was one where I was like in a dumpster for 6 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
And then I ended up getting beat up by the guys like outside, and then they just threw me into the dumpster. And we may have put a mattress, or it might have just been leaves in the dumpster.
Wait, you got beat up as the character in the movie? As the character.
But the thing is, they weren't very good actors, so the beating up was real.
Oh, no.
And then I had to get tossed in the dumpster. And that was a lot of fun.
Well, the sacrifices you make for your art.
What we do for cinema.
Exactly.
That was cinema verite. That was the real deal. That was me getting my butt kicked. Anyway, when you think about the stuff you do in college as stupid or dangerous, it totally was believable to me that people would disappear because you could get caught somewhere. It wasn't too long. Remember that Into the Wild guy? McCandless or what? I mean, Eddie Vedder had that song about him. Anyway. And Sean Penn directed a movie about the guy that went off into the... and they did, actually. They had footage and things like that he took of himself. He went off into Alaska because he wanted to live by himself, prove something.
Yeah.
The only thing he could prove is that he was not much of an outdoorsman.
Aww.
That was really sad.
Yeah.
Because it should have been, this was supposed to be his, triumphant, and he eventually starved to death.
Right. That's terrible.
So that happened in the mid 90s. Mm-hmm. So the idea of that also happening, I guess Maryland also, though, is not like Alaska.
Yeah, but, we've all, especially having grown up in Wisconsin, we know what it's like when you go hiking in the woods. I mean, you can get lost so easily.
And there's no cell phones.
Right.
Like
back then, yeah.
Right, and there's something could happen. Like people could fall. Speaking of Alaska,
right.
One of our friends used to go to Alaska and they'd do this thing where they'd fly into Alaska and then they would forge down this trail into the Arctic Circle.
They basically drop you into a totally uninhabited area, right?
For a month.
Oh my gosh.
For a month.
It's like the ultimate survival test, basically.
Yeah. And anyway, so this one guy that ends up going up with one of our friends, he did die up there.
Oh, that's terrible.
Like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. He went up there, and then he was an older guy, maybe in his early 60s. But what happened was he had like a heart attack. He was out there all alone. He had like a heart attack, and then he just died.
Yeah. I mean, if you're on your own, you could like scratch yourself and get an infection, and there's no walk-in clinic to visit up there.
They asked my dad if he wanted to go help look for him.
Oh my god!
And my dad's like, no. He's like, this guy died. He was 10 years younger than I am. Oh, no. He's like, I don't want to go out and but
that's the risk that you're getting yourself into when you do something like that.
Right. And our ancestors who used to have to
oh my gosh, they had no choice.
Well, you think about that Iceman they found in Austria or whatever, like the 5,000-year-old Iceman. Like he died because he had to cross the Alps for some particular reason. We don't have to cross the Alps for nothing.
Right. We have heaters.
They're great.
Like we don't even have to build fire.
Yeah, we got things we could put in our gloves that warm up.
Right.
And so that, and of course you want to test yourself, and I admire those kind of manly men that do it. Yes. But you sometimes die.
Right.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility that these kids could have died in the Maryland woods.
Especially if there's a paranormal creature out there.
Especially if they get eaten by a witch.
That doesn't want to be bothered.
Right. Especially if they get, like, whoever Hansel and Gretel are out there and eats them. Yeah. So they make that cool marketing around the movie, and then it becomes like a must-see movie and ends up making a couple $100 million and spawning several sequels, of which I don't think I've seen any.
I have not seen any, but I have to say I did enjoy the first one.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it just, I don't know. I wanted to see what was going to happen.
You know what?
The curiosity factor was high.
I didn't enjoy it because number one, the hype was up a little bit. And number two, I always made the mistake of going to see it at a certain theater in Madison where you can't hear it.
The audio was terrible. I was there at that same theater. And it was,
If you thought it was bad, if you just watch it on videotape or whatever, or thought about it was at your movie theater with DTS and Dolby Surround. Imagine watching it where there's a couple of tin cans for speakers.
Right, and it's like an old theater with a so it's echoing basically, like you're in a gymnasium or something. So it's just not good.
And the theater's way cool. Like it's beautiful, it's awesome. And it's also got lots of haunted stories because it's a fun place to go.
Right. To see a band or to see a play or something.
Now they just have bands, and it's a much more pleasurable experience because the PA system for the bands is much better than the PA system for the movie.
Yeah, and I mean the theater itself was meant for watching performers on the stage, not
when it was originally built.
A movie screen. Right. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, Blair Witch Project, very cool marketing. Heather Donahue ended up getting a whole bunch of pretty good roles after that, and cool. Was successful enough to spawn a whole bunch of sequels. But the thing is, the Blair Witch Project wasn't the first movie to use that kind of veracity idea that what you're watching is real found footage to get people to get butts in seats.
Right.
In fact, there was a movie called Cannibal Holocaust that came out in 1980.
Just sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, Cannibal Holocaust is it's an Italian film, and it's about this news crew that goes to South America to investigate like an indigenous tribe.
Okay.
So, they go down, check them out, and what happens when they investigate the indigenous tribe. They get obviously murdered and eaten by the cannibals.
So what you're saying is it's not really a culturally sensitive film.
No. It's not one of those. This is
the Gilligan's Island style kind of.
This is definitely exploitation. This makes Gilligan's Island look culturally sensitive. Boy. Well, this is 40 years ago. We're dealing with different standards. And it's that same idea of the found footage. It's what they used in Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity, nobody treated it like it was real ever. They just said it was a found footage horror movie. Mm-hmm. There's The Fourth Kind or whatever. That's also, I think Mila Jovovich is in that. Oh. That's another one where it's a found footage alien abduction film.
Oh, man.
Right. But those are pretty much always treated as fiction films, and the found footage just makes it extra scary.
Okay.
There's another movie called The Bay, directed by Barry Levinson, and that's about like a sea creature, like the sea rising up and killing people in a town. It's like an eco-terror movie using found footage. Cloverfield, Same kind of thing. Monster attacks New York City, eats a whole bunch of obnoxious 20-somethings. I mean, you watch that movie and you can't wait for them to die. You're
Awesome.
like, I'm looking forward to all of these douchebags being eaten. But Cannibal Holocaust is not the same kind of thing, though, because it's got these, the filmmakers go down there. It's an anthropologist from NYU. It's the film crew, and they're all kind of obnoxious, kind of full of American stereotypes. And what happens is the special effects are low budget, but they're extremely graphic.
Ah, okay.
And so it's horrific when you watch it. So what happens after its premiere in Italy, it was ordered to be seized by a local magistrate, and the director was arrested on obscenity charges.
Wow.
He was later then charged with multiple counts of murder due to rumors that claimed several actors were killed on camera.
Oh my gosh.
What? He was eventually cleared of the charges because it was a fiction film.
Ah, yes, right. Indeed.
But also, several countries still kept the movie banned because it was too gross for them. So that it
offended their delicate sensibilities.
Right. So it's the same kind of thing, and then people want to rent Cannibal Holocaust because they think it's real. They hear, the director was arrested on obscenity charges. We're gonna have to get this movie, and that's what happens. When I was a kid, we all wanted to see Faces of Death.
Oh.
So because Faces of Death was like the movie about people, like it said it was found footage of people actually getting killed. And even, I think the first one I saw was Faces of Death 3, and my cousin in Hawaii was like, they've banned Faces of Death here. Like, do you think, like, you get me a copy?
Nice.
And so, like, I found a way to, copy the videotape from the, and I was like 14 or 15 or whatever. So, like, went somewhere to copied the videotape, and sent it to my cousin in Hawaii.
Oh, man.
Because he was all in the metal and stuff like that. So he wanted to see Faces of Death. And I sent it to him, and I didn't get it when I was 14. I was like, "Oh, this is all stuff. This is really gross, man." Because it's like a bomb squad guy that goes in and fails.
Yeah.
There's a guy that's parachuting, and then he parachutes like into an alligator pit. It's all ridiculous.
Oh man.
But the original Faces of Death, the one that came out, said banned in 59 countries, kind of thing. It's the same kind of deal.
So every teenager wants to see it immediately.
Wants to see it because, number one, it's banned. Number two, it's transgressive. Because when you talk to an adult about wanting to watch a film, like a snuff film,
right?
This idea where people actually die on film. Most people are like, what? No,
thanks.
That's disgusting.
I'd like to not be traumatized.
And obviously the internet brings that out in everybody.
Yeah.
There's Rotten.com. Well, I don't even know if Rotten.com still exists, but Rotten.com was like where you could watch the footage, like Bud Dwyer. Bud Dwyer was the guy that committed suicide on television in the 1970s.
Oh, wow.
He was like a Pennsylvania public servant that was being convicted of corruption. So he calls a press conference. He brings a manila envelope or a yellow envelope on, and he's got a gun in the envelope, and just puts it right to the roof of his mouth and pops it. And shoots. And and you can see that they have that. Rotten.com is where you'd see the pictures of like Jane Mansfield's car after the
just
crash.
Gory stuff.
Kurt Cobain's, the photos from his suicide. It was all, fairly horrific. Obviously horrific. It's people, horrible things happening. But when you're a teenager or whatever, you want to see the horrific things. You don't want to be sheltered.
You're curious.
Right.
You've been sheltered your whole life, and you want to know why are these things being hidden from me?
Right. Now I don't have that same kind of curiosity.
No.
I like to see special effects because I like to see really talented people at work and the art of it. But I'm not as interested in watching people's heads getting blown off in real life. Anyway. But Faces of Death was based on that. This idea that, camera people, because there's so much television news, and camera people are always at some kind of scene. What do they do with this footage they can't show on television? And
sell it.
Right, and they sell it to the people who make Faces of Death. Now, later on in my life, I did find this believable because I was a TV cameraman who was at several accidents. And suddenly you see like an arm or something. You're like,
Oh, gosh.
But that's when you're putting together the package. You're not going to put that together, that package.
Of course.
Like, here, oh man, wait till you get to the arm shot, everybody. So, I mean, I get it. And, obviously on the stuff that was coming through on September 11th, I was working at the TV station, and you would have a row of stuff that was coming directly from the CBS feed in New York.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And there's the stuff that CBS was showing, and then at the TV station, we were getting the feeds from just the camera people who were on the ground. Mm-hmm. People walking around with cameras, and you're,
just unfiltered.
Yeah, and you're watching, and you're watching the towers and the people jumping out and things like that.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And then eventually when the second building falls or whatever, and the camera guy's just like not even that far away. I think he drops the camera and it's just like on the side, and you hear the screaming and the building, and you're sitting there going, holy crap.
And that was real though. That wasn't.
Yes, that's not. I mean, so it's terrifying, and you're watching this, and obviously we weren't cutting to anything because you just keep on network the whole time, but you're watching the rest of what they're not showing to the public.
Yeah,
and it's horrific. So I know that
disturbing.
I realize that this kind of footage exists out there.
Yeah,
but Faces of Death is not that footage.
Right.
So, by the time I actually see the first one, I'm like 17 years old. It's a drive-in movie. They're showing Faces of Death 1 and
That's
2.
a drive-in. Oh, you get your popcorn and your
at
Twizzlers.
The drive-in at the 41 Outdoor in north of Milwaukee, which I don't think exists anymore. But so we go to the drive-in because there was like their midnight movie madness marathon, like something like that. So they have Faces of Death 1 and 2, and then they got Texas Chainsaw, and then they have Hills Have Eyes Part 2, which is the lesser Hills Have Eyes. So I wonder why they picked that one. Anyway, so we're watching Faces of Death, and I realize that there's multiple camera angles for all of this found footage.
Right.
Like all of a sudden, like, somebody gets their leg chopped off because a truck falls on them. And then you see like the point of view shot from the leg.
Oh, man. Nice.
And I'm like, man, it's all fake.
Yeah.
You guys really set this up to be something, and it's all fake.
That was your filmmaker mind, though, at work. Most people don't think about camera angles and stuff. They're just absorbed in the movie.
Because the thing is, so the idea is, like, say, if you're shooting from one side, and let's say someone's walking across the street, and the shot changes, and the person looks like they're continuously walking, they call that a match-on action. And it's where the angle changes, but the action
continues.
It looks seamless.
Sure.
And it's a visual. It's an illusion, obviously, because most things are shot with one camera, and so they have to move the camera and then to make it look seamless. So when you see that happen in supposedly found footage, you're like, what were they? Did they have a 3-camera setup at this accident?
Right.
Like, how would that be possible?
Yeah.
And there's also a great, like, there was a great podcast done last year, and it interviewed the guy who directed and wrote Faces of Death, like whose idea it was.
Oh, wow.
And now I think he like runs a gun store in Colorado. But he just wanted to make something scary, make some money. They had this idea based on this idea of, it's called Mondo movies.
Okay.
All right. And this comes from the 1960s. And it's really an Italian idea. They had this movie called Mondo Cane, which in English means a dog's world. I don't know why they particularly called it that. But they go to different places around the world and they film the shocking stuff that they do, like the tribes would do, cannibal Holocaust style, except not eating people. It would just be like ripping apart a dog or an
rituals
animal.
Or things like that.
Yeah, and it would use the otherness of different cultures to shock you in the film.
Yeah.
And these Mondo films. I mean, even Faces of Death Part 3, I think, or Part 2 has something where you watch a Korean family kill a dog and eat it.
Ooh.
It's this whole idea of these, that you can buy a dog at for the grocery because that's what they had so many dogs. They did that in their culture. It's not real. I mean, I don't believe it's real because I think they shot it in the United States.
Okay.
But Mondo Cane was that idea of going to these different places and making a documentary of these shocking rituals. And it's just this tradition of Mondo filmmaking. And Faces of Death kind of fed into that and became the most famous American version of these things of banned in 50 countries. This idea that what you're watching is something real, and that makes it feel transgressive. That gives it an extra thing. Even when you were watching The Conjuring and it said based on a true story.
Yeah.
That just changes your whole perspective.
Right off the bat, totally.
You're like, oh my God, this really happened?
Yeah. Right.
And you're watching a biopic or something, and you think like, oh, this really happened. It changes your whole idea of how you think about the movie.
Yeah, how you take in the movie.
And so people doing this for marketing, whether it's Antrum, the deadliest film ever made, the Blair Witch Project, or Faces of Death or Cannibal Holocaust, they're all over the same thing. Wendy, you brought up this example that I'd forgotten about, and the movie Kids.
Yeah.
That came out in like 1995. And Kids is about these, like teenagers in New York City in the 1990s. Nobody's going to school. They're just having sex.
Just partying constantly, doing drugs and...
Right. It's all drugs and sex and people being horrible to each other. And really it follows around this kid who like finds out that he's HIV positive and then he spreads the disease.
It's disturbing.
And it's it's directed by this guy named Larry Clark and written by Harmony Korine, who eventually did Spring Breakers, which, hey, I think Spring Breakers is a great movie. It's James Franco, Spring Break, at his best. But this movie, Kids, it's in like a really documentary style. It feels like you're just following around, these
actual
teenagers.
People. Yeah.
And now you realize those teenagers are actors because it's Rosario Dawson. That's her first movie. And Chloe Sevigny, who is nominated for Boys Don't Cry, and she's in a lot of stuff. And so you get those actors get discovered on it. So you realize it's actors, but when you're watching it, it feels so real. It doesn't feel, the whole movie's scripted, And even the lead character in Kids, the guy who is a piece of crap. Like you watch this and you're like, this is a human piece of garbage. He's like, people hate me because of that movie.
Oh man, that sucks.
He's like, people hated me because of that movie.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing. We have this visceral reaction to documentaries, even when they're fake. And it's hard to get over that because our mind sees it as something real.
Right.
That they did that with the remember the Alien Autopsy movie on Fox?
Yeah. That's right.
Speaking of 1995.
Oh, good year.
Alien Autopsy, I remember, I think that was one of the weekends we were home for college, and I had people over to watch the Alien Autopsy movie.
Yeah, it was a big deal. We were super excited for that.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people over to watch the Alien Autopsy movie. And now if you guys this is a 25-year-old hoax. But it's Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction. It's hosted by Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek: The Next Generation. So, Riker is hosting it. So it gives it that semblance.
A little bit of credibility there already.
Right. And this is right before William Frakes Jonathan Frakes hosted the Paranormal Borderline, which was like a found footage thing where they investigate paranormal stories. So it's giving it some kind of credibility. And just to give you a little bit of context, In Search Of was hosted by Leonard Nimoy, who played the first officer on the original Star Trek Enterprise.
Right.
Alien Autopsy is hosted by Jonathan Frakes, who plays the first officer on the Star Trek: The Next Generation. So it continues that kind of idea that you grow up with. Well, this is the new Mr.
I can trust this person.
Because I trusted Mr. Spock.
Right.
I can trust Commander Riker. So Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction, and it's got this grainy footage. It's got this grainy footage of an alien. It's got a big chubby belly, but they cut it open, and it's hard to see anything.
Gross.
It just shows military doctors around, but also the paranormal people were taking it seriously.
Oh boy,
right? Kevin Randall, he says that later on that his remarks were taken out of context. But Kevin Randall is a guy that has been studying Roswell for years. He's, shown talking about the autopsy footage and how amazing it is. And it's this idea that they are autopsying an alien that crashed at Roswell. And the guy that brought it forward, Ray Santilli, he said he got it from a cameraman in his 80s that used to work for the Army Special Forces. And he filmed many events, including the Manhattan Project, which was the atom bomb tests. And he said that on June 2nd, 1947, he received an order directly from General McMullen stating there had been a crash. He was to go immediately to White Sands, New Mexico, and film everything. The cameraman had authority and above the on-site commander and reported only back to the general. The cameraman flew to Roswell and then was taken by road to the site he describes as it being a dried up small lake bed. And then he took the footage and I guess held on to the footage.
Right.
Like the military did not be like, give me that footage.
Also, I mean, at what point did you decide it's time for me to release this footage?
Right. He in his 80s.
It's like, well, I might go any day now.
Well, deathbed confessions get a different kind of
respect.
Even in court.
Yeah,
deathbed confessions, because people have nothing to lose. Like juries will take deathbed confessions more than they will take just a regular confession because the person's going to die. Why wouldn't they tell the truth?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was the idea. So Kevin Randall worked with Don Schmidt, and they wrote the book that the Roswell movie with Kyle MacLachlan is based on. We've had Paul Davids, the producer from the film. He was also on the podcast. And he sees the ghost of Forrest J. Ackerman from Famous Monsters.
Yeah, that's right.
But so Kevin Randall and Don Schmidt used to work together. And I said a year after the alien autopsy, before it came out that Ray Santilli's like, he's like, well, it wasn't the real footage. I saw the real footage.
Oh,
and so we created a reenactment of the footage that I saw.
But we didn't tell people it was a reenactment.
That's not what Riker told me.
Yeah, exactly.
In that thing. That is not what he said.
Right.
So, like, that happens. So this is at a meeting in, like, Greendale, Wisconsin, or Greenfield, Wisconsin, in 1996. And Allison, my sister, she's on the email list of all these Milwaukee weirdos. And Don Schmidt's, they're having a party at this certain place, and Don Schmidt, the researcher, is going to be there, and he's going to tell people about the latest stuff on Roswell.
Cool.
And it's like a potluck. And so Allison's like, you want to go? And I'm like, hell's yes, I want to go.
Of course.
So we make up some kind of vegetarian food that we can bring for the potluck so we have something to eat. And we get there, and Don's talking about the alien autopsy film like it's real. And he says that they have this piece of fuselage or whatever that we found in New Mexico, and they're getting it tested to see if it's of this earth.
Sure.
And then he passes around like this little rod. It's a rod that's like triangular, so I don't know what you'd call that.
Like a cone?
No. Picture like a long...
Like a prism.
No, like a prism.
Shaped.
There you go, like a prism shaped.
Okay.
And
a Toblerone.
Like, exactly. So he's
go.
passing around the space Toblerone. And it's gray, and it's got these purple markings on it. And he's like, this is a copy of what we found in the desert.
Oh, okay.
He's passing it around.
Right, because you don't want to pass around something if you're not sure the actual thing.
And he goes, he's not just going to pass around the actual thing at this party. Because we're drinking
material.
We're drinking beers and eating food, and people are asking, what's your sign? That's the first time somebody's ever asked me, what's your sign?
What?
And, not as
they did?
Yeah, but not as like a, come on, because I was there with my girlfriend at the time, but as like a...
Astrological?
Yeah, like, what's your sign? Oh, that's interesting. So you must like... And I'm like...
You're very bullheaded.
I'm like, you must like being fooled.
Nice.
So that was a whole thing that I just was like, this is crazy. But I was on board with the alien autopsy tape too, because Don was on board with the alien autopsy tape. And I'm like, wow, if he says
some credibility.
If he says it's going to be, if he says there's something to it, then I bet there's something to it. And Kevin Randall eventually came out against it. Don came out against it. That was a hoax. But at the time, we were all pretty hot in the alien autopsy film.
Yeah.
And you find out that Riker lied to us. Really, I mean, he obviously had nothing to do with it, because he was
reading a script.
He's just like, I'll take my check, thank you. But it was that idea that this fake movie, like it went out and it was enough to be seen by 10 million people. And this is at a time when things on television would have 10 million people watching it. Like now, 10 million people, it's the biggest show in the world.
Exactly.
At the time, you'd be like, holy crap, 10 million people watch this.
A live program, yeah.
So, I love these hoaxes and the marketing. Like, it is fun, except when people take it too seriously.
Yeah.
Like, we were duped by Ray Santilli. I was duped by the Blair Witch until, I figured out it was marketing. And I'm not saying that these websites have been duped by Antrum, the deadliest film ever made, but I feel like there needs to be some context to put out and say, this is a mockumentary.
Yeah.
This is a paranormal news site that usually talks about paranormal news, but this is a movie that's playing on that, and just to get that out of the way.
Yeah. And also it's just, yet another reminder that the internet buyer beware. You never know what's truth and what isn't on the internet, and people pass things off that aren't true
all the
as
time.
truth all the time.
And the thing is, on the internet, the truth about things is only a click away. Every time you can just search for something. And nobody, still nobody does. So,
Right.
what, did you read that? Yeah, I read it. It's bullcrap.
Right.
I'm not saying Snopes is always right, but it's a good first place to check.
Another thing, Wikipedia is not always necessarily trustworthy.
No, because anybody can edit.
Right.
You can edit Wikipedia, and until it's changed.
Yeah, and things generally get caught pretty quickly if somebody sneaks in a lie or whatever.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you might not see the lie before.
Right, before you do it.
It's funny because it seems like a lot of people now take Wikipedia as like what we took the encyclopedia as when we were kids. You
Right.
know, what's the truth about this? Oh, I'll look it up in the encyclopedia. You look it up, you get your definition, and you're like, okay, cool. And now that's what Wikipedia is, but it isn't.
Right, because Wikipedia also can sneak in opinions
Yeah.
and things until somebody comes in and changes it.
Catches it.
So it's a funny thing. Last couple ideas about cursed films is, I hate to bring this one up again,
Uh-oh.
but the Demon House.
Oh, no.
That's right, Zach Baggins in the Demon House.
Yeah.
Right in the beginning, it starts with this marketing that it sets you up saying, be careful of watching this film because just watching this film is dangerous.
Right. Yep.
It's the only thing that's dangerous. It's dangerous to your sense of excitement because it's so boring. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to your sense of credulity because there is none.
Come on.
And
But yeah, I think, didn't it end also with a warning about, well, I don't want to spoil it, but
right.
yeah. Anyway,
be careful of the Demon House. Where
Who in there?
Who in there? It was funny, and I think I've told this story before, but it's just what also sets this up. So you watch the Demon House movie, but then when people were talking about it, talking about the film, talking about the case, there is something really strange that happened to the case because the social worker does report seeing the kid walk on the ceiling. And she's like, this is what I saw.
Not a typical report.
And it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And so that's the best. They could have flown her in,
Yeah.
to do the interview in person,
Right.
Instead of having
Skype.
it over Skype.
Yeah.
You're like, you only spent $35,000 on the house. You could spend $5,000 to interview this woman.
Or a few $100, just send the cameraman to her.
Right, the only credible witness they have in the entire movie, and they have her over Skype.
Well,
Zach, what are you doing with that Ghost Adventures money? Not spending it on your dog of a movie.
it's the museum, man.
The museum is a lot of fun.
There you go.
$40, I don't know, but it was a pretty fun museum. So but the thing is, that whole idea that the movie's cursed and you're going to be cursed if you watch it, it sets you up for oh no.
Yeah.
I'm kind of scared now.
Oh, what's this gonna do?
Right. And that goes back to this idea of, you watch something, it can go with you.
Right.
It creates a virus in your head.
Yep.
There was a TV show on Showtime called Masters of Horror about, 15 years ago. And there's one episode directed by John Carpenter, who directed In the Mouth of Madness, where in that movie there's an author named Sutter Kane, who's based on an amalgamation of Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft. Mm-hmm. And the idea is he's so influential, he's so popular that he can drive people mad with his books. And then once they make a film adaptation of his books, the message just spreads.
Oh my goodness!
So the whole idea behind the movie, it's Sam Neill, Jürgen Prochnow plays Sutter Kane, and then it's people walking up to each other being like, "Do you read Sutter Kane?" And that's the idea of that they're driven mad by reading what happens in the book. And funny thing is, 10 years later, 2005, this Masters of Horror series, John Carpenter directs a movie called Cigarette Burns that has this idea. There's this rare 30-year-old movie called Le Fin Absolu du Monde, the absolute end of the world. And the film supposedly has supernatural power to anyone who views it, which originally led to a homicidal riot during its premiere at a film festival. Whoa. And then the movie is destroyed. So then the character in Cigarette Burns has to go find the movie, and the character's played by Daryl from The Walking Dead, Norman Reedus.
Oh, nice.
And funny enough, it's written by Drew McWeeny, which
come on.
name. No, his name's McWeeny. My last name's Huberty, so I don't criticize anybody. But Drew McWaney, who used to be one of the main writers on Ain't It Cool News, who helped propagate the original The Blair Witch Project is Real.
Yes.
He was called Moriarty on Ain't It Cool News. And that was everybody had secret names on that website.
Sure, of course.
Because they'd be reporting from Hollywood sets.
Yeah.
You know, so that Cigarette Burns movie it's the same kind of thing. So John Carpenter has dealt with this idea of movies being able to hurt you twice. I mean, that's the idea behind The Ring. Anybody who watches the cursed videotape in The Ring, and that's based on an urban legend about, you know, some girls have a slumber party and they go to Blockbuster, rent a video. They can't agree on a film, so one of them asks the clerk for help. The clerk says, "Oh, I've got something for you." And then
behind the counter.
Yeah, she goes behind the counter and gives him a videotape. You know, but the thing is, while she's back there, there's also a tape on the, there's another tape on the counter, and then one of the girls reaches for it, and the clerk says, no, don't watch this one. And the girls are like, "Well, what's wrong with it?" And the clerk's like, "It's just a home movie." But the thing is, the girl swipes the home movie idea. Yeah. They steal it, they bring it home, and they watch it. The power goes out, but the TV stays on. The video starts playing, and it shows a black woman being burned for practicing witchcraft and hoodoo. She utters a curse that all who witness her death will face the same fate in 2 days' time. Then the VCR makes skipping sounds, cuts off, and the girls died 48 hours after watching the movie. And this was an urban legend in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Like in the 80s and 90s. Obviously, the tape, this idea and New Orleans has the idea of the hoodoo. Actually, the voodoo, because hoodoo was an English
That's
thing.
right.
Hoodoo was an English thing. So I just thought that was interesting because I'd never heard that urban legend before.
Okay. Yeah.
So they used that as part of The Ring, and then the part of it was an old Japanese ghost story that went into it. So, cursed videotapes, everybody.
Don't watch those videotapes.
Don't watch the videotapes.
Be kind, rewind.
Don't watch The Demon House because it'll curse you. We're still talking about it over a year later. But the thing is, Antrum might be a great movie, but it is not a real paranormal occurrence. It's not, it has nothing to do with, it won't kill you. Just like when you read the Necronomicon, you will not go mad. All right.
All right. The air is clear now.
Yes, we like to do what we can.
We do.
Of course, to go with the deadliest movie ever made, we had to write the most dangerous track that we could come up with. You've been warned. Listen at your own risk, because we take no responsibility for what happens after you've heard it. This is
the deadliest song ever made.
Something so evil about this tune.
you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
You know who's not cursed, Wendy?
Who's not cursed?
Well, the best protection against curses is our Patreon community.
Oh!
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. It's amazing.
If you sign up for the See You on the Other Side Patreon community, you will be protected against any and all movie curses.
The shield will open up over you, and you'll be protected.
It's true. You can watch Demon House, you can watch Mondo Cane, you can watch Faces of Death as much as you want, and nothing bad will happen to you. That is the See You on the Other Side Patreon guarantee.
Amazing.
Well, we want to thank all of our Patreons, particularly Dr. Ned. Dr. Ned's at the level where he gets a shout out in every single episode. Thank you so much, Ned. We appreciate the support.
And thank you to all of our Patreon members who make it so much fun for us to keep doing these episodes. They give us great ideas for topics, and we get to catch up with them once a month in our monthly Skype hangouts.
Anyway, we'd love to hang out with you guys as well. So if you're interested in joining the Patreon community, please visit othersidepodcast.com/donate. And when you can buy an evil grimoire at your local mall, you know this world's going to hell.